Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the pod where we chat, argue, and wax poetic about the movies, books, and games that we love, hate, or that are simply worth talking about. All movies have something to share, and we enjoy trying to analyze what they capture. Welcome to the Chatter After. I am Brandon Alvarado, the reverse flan here, and I am very excited to be here talking to you guys our thoughts on DC's The Flash. It's been a long road, a very tiring, troublesome, and obstacle filled race for my favorite superhero, the Scarlet Speedster, the Crimson Comet, Barry Allen, the fastest man alive, to reach the movies, a film, theaters, screen, and actually get a proper debut. And the question is this: was it worth the wait? I'm joined by our good friend Christian Uhlenberg from Film Optix,
Hold on.
Mike, and Isaac Wolf. We've all seen the movie. We have a lot to say about it, a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts. And I'm going to tell you right now, full disclaimer, we know all the, what's up, Leo? A boy from Geekly Goods. Now, it's, right? I'm telling you. But here's the thing, though. I'm wearing a shirt for a reason. So think of that what you will. Now, it's... I lost my train of thought. The full disclaimer before we start. Everybody knows about the controversies in terms of the casting crew or the different things that have happened behind the scenes throughout the years, behind the production of this film. We are not talking about that in this podcast. We're focusing on the film on its own merit, the story, the set, the scenes, what it builds towards, if anything, and how we really thought about the film as a whole. That is the focus, because the Shatter After is all about the film. It's about recreating that experience of leaving the theater, hanging out with your friends, grabbing a burger, grabbing a beer, grabbing some tea, whatever you do, and just talking about the film with your friends. And that's what we're doing right now. So these are our thoughts. We're going to go dive into the film right now. So as usual, in perfect The Shatter After fashion, we're going to do a roundtable. And we're going to give our initial impressions. I will go last because I cannot go first, as I am the reverse.
What's up, Didge?
So starting with, I'm assuming, Isaac, you probably are the last one to have seen it. So you saw it today, correct?
Yeah, I saw that today.
So we're going to go from Isaac, Mike, Christian, and then myself. So counterclockwise. Again, the reverse. It's going to be, I'm going to be saying that a lot for some reason. For some
He's
reason,
not even in this movie.
But for some reason, it keeps falling into place. You know what I'm saying? And for some reason, Barry runs backwards in the movie, which makes no sense whatsoever. But Isaac, you've seen The Flash. What are your thoughts? Oh, by the way, spoilers everywhere, by the way, guys. Everybody's seen this movie for like 3 months now for free in screenings. People have seen it multiple times in screenings before the freaking movie came out. Like, people are going around 4 in the first weekend, but not because they're seeing it 4 times in the same weekend, because they've seen it for free in multiple screenings.
That's why it's not going to make money, because everybody already saw this movie already. Well placed.
Well done. Well done. So, guys, this is spoilers ahead. So if you haven't seen it, you shouldn't be here. You should probably be seeing it, unless you've already seen it, because everybody's seen it. Go, Isaac. Thoughts on The Flash?
No, it was a very weird Flash Gordon movie. Wait, wrong franchise.
It's that kind of night. Here we go.
Yeah, but hey, it wasn't that. At least it wasn't a pun. Like, did you know that Barry Allen's favorite cartoon is Speed Force? It was a Speed Racer, but I digress. What?
Go on.
Anyway, this movie is the prime example of a 6 out of 10 movie. I can't say that I hate it, but I can't say that I loved it either. It has some weird choices, but at the same time, there were some choices that, yeah, that was good. we all know about the production problems. I mean, it was announced, was it 2013?
2014.
Yeah.
Was a week after, was it a week after the first or the second?
It was
episode?
announced the second episode of the Flash TV show was airing at the same day.
Yeah. And now 1 week afterwards, that the Flash show ends, the Flash movie.
Yes, that is so interesting. Well, you got to figure it's 10
That's
years
funny.
because, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just so funny, but because you can see that there are so much meddling, so much changes, so much. So in some aspects, I would, and we are also going to talk about one specific part that just makes it even more sense about. It's sort of like a trouble in with the administrator. It just, I dare even argue, I'm surprised that it ended up as well as it did, if that makes any sense. This was just because this
It was better than you thought it was going to be?
I had no expectation whatsoever. But if you look at from a production quality standpoint, I mean, just look at the games that goes in production hell. A lot of them doesn't come out that well. If you catch my drift.
Yeah.
I'm looking from that perspective. And controversy aside, I think Ezra Miller in this movie is his version works a lot better than in the Justice League / Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's sort of like I don't know how I should describe it, but it feels like the writers got the complaints of his character and then actually made it an arc, if that makes any sense.
Come again? I didn't understand that last bit.
People complain about how he was behaving and all that, yes, and then just, okay, let's have him grow, sort of like be more serious, sort of like be more sure about himself and make it an actual arc in this case. So
you're saying he has a better arc in this movie than Justice League or Snyder's Justice League?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of like
in other words, he actually has an arc. Go ahead.
Yeah. In as much as I love Zack Snyder's Justice League, let's face it, he was just comedic relief. He didn't really have an arc, so to speak. Even if the small part was just Bruce, you can do it, and well, he did it, but there wasn't really a line going through that.
Make sure you're not getting Justice League confused with Zack Snyder's Justice League, because he actually does have an arc in Justice League that isn't in the theatrical cut. And it sounds like you're getting them crossed a little bit.
Let me put it like this. There was ages ago that I saw... you might be right. I digress. Mm-hmm. But... potato, tomato.
So, Mike...
Yes.
How was your potato? How was your experience with DC's The Flash?
It was very weird. As somebody who's watched like 6 seasons of the CW show, I saw so many things that show did better. And granted, it had more time to develop things, but like the villain of this movie is essentially just Savitar. The plot of this movie is Flashpoint. And like a lot of the similar beats from the CW show are in this movie. And that was just a really weird experience for me. So to answer this question right quick from Geekly Goods, Zack Snyder's Justice League Flash reverse time scene or time travel scene. So yeah, If I had to go with which one I
What a great
liked
question. What a great
better,
question.
I'd like Zack Snyder's better. Also, I think it's interesting how that movie is the one that's canon because Bruce references that time travel scene, which doesn't happen in the original cut of Justice League. Interesting. This movie is it's weird because I think I'm completely the opposite end of the spectrum than Isaac on Ezra Miller's performance of Barry Allen, because the movie opens up, we have this big set piece, Barry saving these really weird CGI babies and a dog. And
don't forget the nurse.
And the nurse, the screaming nurse, rightfully so. That I just want to take a second. I know we're not trying to talk about the controversies of this movie, but having Ezra Miller look me dead in the eye and say, first of all, putting a baby in a microwave and then saying the Justice League is really bad when it comes to therapy they should have cut that line out. That took me out of the movie so much. But anyway, we have the Justice League show up, and he's like, I'm the janitor of the Justice League. Nobody's ever doing things. I'm always here working with Batman. It's like, we missed a movie. We missed a step. Because I don't know Barry as a character. And they did their best kind of setting some of that stuff up. And we know we get to learn this version of Barry a little bit better throughout the course of this movie. But I feel like I was never invested in Barry's journey because I never knew who Barry was, and that's just a misstep of the DCEU in general, because we never got solo movies for these characters until after Justice League, and it's a whole mess. The multiverse is weird, the CGI is weird. There are moments I liked, like I think Keaton's great, I think Kai is great, but yeah, my overall experience is just meh.
The chat is on fire tonight, and Demetrius dropping lines like this. Demetrius Strong in the chat. For me, Ezra as the Flash was the weakest part of the movie, and it's rough when your titular character is both showing up twice and being the weak link both times. Mike, are you done with your part?
I'm done. I just want to address Leo's comment. I was like, don't you talk about therapy, cringe. Like at that point in post-production, you got to cut the joke.
At least he seems to get therapy now. So.
Still weird though.
Yeah,
I love how I took the time to make this disclaimer. But even the movie is pushing us.
That's why I'm like, look, the movie did this and it ruined my experience. It took me out of it. Also, like my name says down here, Wally West would never. Wally West would never. We should just did Wally West. I'm sorry.
Wally, wait. Before I address Geekly Goods here and drop some comic book knowledge, what'd you say about Wally West never what?
Like Wally West would just never be in a movie like this. Being a fan of the sidekicks, I am blessed
Wally
to either
West
be
would
in
be
Titans
the one.
or nothing.
Yeah, Wally West would be the one that would run into an alternate timeline and arrive into this weird Earth.
Right.
As opposed to being like the main Earth. Now, very interesting. According to Geekly Goods, Leo says in the chat, weakest thing for me was Savitar in the end. It wasn't built up well enough to come at the end like that. Okay. Here is the truth about this. That is not Savitar. The version of Savitar that we know from the CW, it is an original creation of the show. The original Savitar, God of Speed, was another guy completely different that was a speedster and was a Wally West villain. And he had the cult of Savitar. So like it had all those elements, but it was never an alternative version of your hero or Barry. So in other words, no. Again, and he goes, oh no, I just called him Savitar. No, great. Because here's the thing though. The reason I'm pointing this out is because there's two different characters altogether, but more importantly, the CW made this own version of the character their own, and it was perfect. And they tried to do it here, and it was weird. It didn't make sense, and it was. You can't even do the main character right.
And he looks
looked
better
horrible.
in the CW show. I'm going to be
yes.
Come on.
Yes. I mean, I like the I do appreciate the fact I see. Yes, it does. And Leo agrees. And Leo, you're right. I mean, the idea of Savitar is fresh in our minds because we know the CW show, and the CW show did a lot better. But the crazy thing is, and I don't want to. I'm just taking advantage of the comment, but I do want to hear Christian's take on the movie before I give mine. It makes you think about this and how disconnected from the zeitgeist. And this is not a dab to Christina Hodson that wrote the screenplay. It's like you're writing a story that has been with a character that has been actively in the zeitgeist for the last 10 years. If you're rethreading familiar steps, you have to step it up. Because the idea that they never named this villain, which again, big fail in
which is
any
why we're just
superhero
going
movie.
with Savitar.
No, correct. But how do you have a villain and not name them? Which, yeah. But
didn't
correct.
the merchandise call him the Black Flash or something?
Which again
Dark
is a
Flash,
different
yeah.
character. The Black Flash is another character altogether too.
Not arguing that. I'm just
No, I know. I agree.
trying to see if my memory serves me right.
Yes, your memory serves you perfectly. But yeah, it's crazy that we have issues with the main character, and then we're using him as a version of the villain, which is now the way it came about to me was very interesting, but at the same time, But yeah, yes, Wally West villain. For some reason, a lot of the best villains are from the Wally West era, but I digress.
Because Wally West is the best. I'm kidding. They're all
I
good.
Now, Christian, your thoughts on the film?
So this is my first time talking spoilers for it, but I'll just give my initial reactions first, and then I guess kind of just dig in because I saw it on, I think, June 6th, so a little bit over like 11 days ago. I said that it was unexpectedly like hilarious. It took a lot of cues from like James Gunn's playbook when it came to the humor. I thought Sasha Kaye and Michael Keaton nailed it as Supergirl and Batman. I am kind of representing for Supergirl today because she did not get a lot of representation in this movie. She wasn't in it as much as I was hoping. The CGI definitely has its moments. And the pacing, for whatever reason, made it feel longer than its runtime. But oddly enough, I mean, yeah, I have issues with the movie, but I still feel like just from a story aspect, like if you're taking out the cameos with Nicolas Cage and everything else, I still think it's one of the better DC movies, not like the best, but the director keeps talking and it's like, well, trying to defend the whole like CGI aspect, like, oh, it looks weird because it was meant to be that way. And I'm like,
I can't.
Right,
just admit that, hey, like this movie was supposed to come out like 2 years ago, and it's like everyone's been gassing it up.
It was supposed to come out 6 years ago, I think, around 2017, 2018. That was the original. So. But then again, they could never hold the director.
Right. So like, we've it's pretty much gone through development hell, like essentially. Yeah. And I mean, it's all right. I think that obviously, like if we're talking about Ezra as the Flash, it was they did a very good job of that. Because I mean, I thought Ezra did a great job as a Flash, just as from separating the art from the artist type situation. I was laughing, like I thought it was very funny, but at the same time, everything that has happened with Ezra, it kind of takes away from Michael Keaton and especially Sasha Kaye. This is like her first big break as
it's
Supergirl.
Her first movie, period.
Yeah, like it's her first movie, period. And then it's like she's barely in the film. And then, it really takes away from her debut. But overall, I thought it was all right. I don't hate it. I don't like love it. I gave it like a 3 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. I think on our spoiler-free review, I think I gave it like a solid 70 because it does have its really good moments. It is a very emotional film, but I don't know what cut of the movie that Mr. Tom Cruise watched. But
what did Stephen King see?
Yeah, exactly. And what does Stephen King see in this? They're like, oh, it's the best movie ever. I was like, this movie, like, it deals with a lot of multiversal
He hates The
stuff.
Shining.
Yeah, which is
and
weird.
It's one of the best movies ever made for that.
It's just, I mean,
that genre.
There's another.
I can understand why I hate that movie as someone who has read the book, honestly.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what Stephen King and Mr. Tom Cruise watched. It must have been an earlier cut of this movie because it's. I mean, I don't. The CGI is kind of shoddy. You get the whole, goofy. Like it was cool to see the cameos, but they didn't serve the story like for Across the Spider-Verse. You have a lot of these, multiple variants of Spider-Man, but they all serve that film. They serve the story in a way that it's meaningful for Miles' journey and for Gwen's journey. They're kind of just like, the multiverse is big, and we just throw in like CGI Christopher Reeves. And I saw someone tweet, they're like, oh man, they're like, yeah, like why didn't they like actually put Christopher Reeves in the movie? I'm like,
oh god,
god.
I mean, yeah, but
let's rip that band-aid off right now. So since we're here, can we give me the one shot, guys? Just give me the full screenshot, please. DC.
Yeah, because they went through like each world, and like it's cool. Like, yeah, there's different universes or Earths out there, multiverse, whatever. But like, I mean, I watched Flashpoint Paradox beforehand, and I was like, this is so much better.
DC, never resurrect dead actors again, for the love of God. It is gross. It's slimy. It's not nostalgic. Like, if you wanted Christopher Reeves in this movie, you had 4 movies to pull from. You could have got any random clip. You could have got Brandon Routh to do this. You mean to tell me you couldn't put Grant Gustin in this movie? But we can resurrect Adam West. We can put Zoom from The Flash season 2 in this movie. But you couldn't put Grant Gustin in this movie. You couldn't get Brandon Routh. You couldn't get the Titans. You couldn't get Stephen Amell. You couldn't find a way to get Christian Bale to do 1 second of this movie. And instead, we're going to resurrect dead people in the most uncanny valley way you possibly could. It ruined the entire experience because I just felt gross watching it. I'm done. Everybody come back.
Yeah.
Speaking of resurrect dead people, Adam West Joker and the one that plays Penguin in Adam West TV show was cameos that got cut. Actually,
good. When I saw that Linda Carter got cut out of this movie, I'm like, thank God, because they weren't going to bring her back. They were going to get some weird CGI recreation of her, and nobody needs that.
Also, short thing about the CG. I could have bought his comment about this being an artistic choice if it just looked like that in the Speed Force. But it wasn't just in the Speed Force that it looked wonky. And that's the biggest issue. Had the effects outside of the Speed Force looked really good?
Titans did it better. They actually did. They really did. The Flash show did it better. When Barry's in the Force and you see the clips, it's like he's seeing glimpses into those Earths. So he's seeing clips of characters from the movies we've seen them in, and it's way more respectful to do it that way. It doesn't feel like you're honoring these characters, these legends. It feels like you're taking advantage of the IP by recreating them that way. And it was so unsettling. Honoring them, show a clip of Superman 2, I don't care. But digitally recreating their faces, unsettling. And they warmed us up to it by recreating the current Justice League's faces throughout the entire movie. And so they're like, oh, you're going to buy it once it happens the last time. And I'm like, nope, doesn't work.
Yeah, we got the entire Justice League movie in this movie minus. That made no sense. We got the entire Justice League in the Flash movie.
Yeah.
minus Cyborg. They mentioned Cyborg. Like
Who was
literally
his best
everyone
friend out of
shows
everyone
up.
else?
I mean, Superman is there. It's CG, but he makes a small little appearance. But Gal comes. I was like, oh, okay. Well, at least Gal showing up in the Flash made more sense than her showing up in Shazam! Fury of the Gods. But that's a different discussion. But yeah, I don't know. It was all right. I need to see it again to be like, okay, where does it
At least
lead?
Cage had a fun cameo.
But like all that CGI that they showed towards the end of the movie it looked so bad. It looked so waxy and just out of place. Like you had Christopher Reeve Superman and then Supergirl. Is that from the CW or is that from?
No, that's the
From
Supergirl from the
Supergirl, the
80s movie
yeah.
that.
Oh,
Is in continuity.
Is that from Superman 5 or is that?
No, she has her own Supergirl movie.
She has her own super. Oh, okay.
That's the last.
and
movie
it
we
literally
watched in
says
that
on the
franchise.
tagline, it's her movie. Like on the tagline.
And
It's
then,
not very
I
good,
I
but
thought
yeah, it's the same continuity.
I just want to see more Sasha Kaye, and then we had Zod come back. I'm like I guess he's back. Cool. I mean, I just
Guess
wanted
who's
to see.
back? It's like Slim Shady.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
kinda-
I don't know. I mean, it's.
Zod is back.
I think
General
it makes
Zod's nickname
sense.
should be Gen Z.
I
I
do
it
think
may-
the what you guys were talking about earlier with Flash going back in time, it was done much better in Zack Snyder's Justice League for sure. I thought it was pretty funny how he actually made fun of the way they actually ran. Because it was funny. I'm
Not a good move.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious.
But that's the problem.
That's the one good thing.
this
And
hero-
it did have emotional beats when it came to his mother.
So
Like those are the two things I really adored
we're
about
gonna
that
let
movie.
Christian get his points out, and then Brandon can
No,
let
no,
all
I'm-
that
I'm sorry.
restriction.
I'm
Like,
sorry.
It's
I'm sorry.
It's middle of the road, but
Yeah.
Let me just
Look, look. I'm getting the little red in my eye. Look,
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I'm
was-
stop vibrating.
I was talking to Didge earlier today, and he pointed out like making fun of how he runs ruins the entire concept because like he never learns how to run any better. It's not like, oh, you're doing this wrong and he gets better at it. It's just we're just making fun of it. And they make fun of it. They didn't change it. They just like, he runs weird at the end. It's exactly.
It was so
bringing
funny.
it back up down here. Like you knew he runs bad and you did nothing about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Brandon, take the floor. 28 minutes in. Where are you?
So I saw the movie.
You did see
And as soon as it starts, you get the Flash theme. Which, by the way, you don't hear ever.
Is that
again,
like the
which-
Queen Flash theme?
No. You literally get. Oh,
Oh, right. Yeah. I didn't
As
catch
it's going,
that. I'm sorry.
as it's going through all the logos, which I'm thinking,
Yeah.
holy crap, this could be an amazing Flash. This is it. You barely or don't hear it at all anywhere else. Which again, Keaton got the freaking Danny Elfman theme every 5 seconds he was on screen as Batman.
Oh, don't
But
forget
we-
when Wonder Woman showed up.
Right. Right. So there was a lot of moments that look, it's hard. Okay. As a Flash fan, for those that don't know, the Flash is my all-time favorite superhero. It is the Flash, and it is specifically Barry Allen Flash. So there was a lot of moments that I never imagined that I would see in the screen that I got to see that made me jump off my seat. That made me go, damn, this is amazing. Like that beginning, the suit coming out of the ring, the first time you see the suit, him running within the Speed Force, regular running, not the weird ball that is supposed to replace the cosmic treadmill. Which
yes,
again,
Wonder Woman's everything. We know, Trayvon.
yeah, it's there's a not that the whatever chrono ball, whatever he calls it, which is supposed to replace the cosmic treadmill. We see the experiment. We see what he does to try and regain his powers, which is just like the comics. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I had this conversation or Mike. We called it. I called it that Josh Okoye was going to be lifting him up as the second lightning bolt. Remember, I mentioned it on the trailer reaction we had.
You did.
So, like, it had a lot of moments, like the moment where he creates a cyclone with his speed. You know, like there's a lot of things that I'm like
the vibrating
damn.
through walls as well. I know.
Yeah, the phasing was great.
That was such a
the
funny
face-
gag.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, the flat, all that was great. The clothes burning up.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of things. Lightning gave me abs. He doesn't say it, but for some reason we are focused on the fact that Ezra Miller has abs. But like, there's a lot of things that as a Flash fan I found remarkable and enjoyed. So all the cool things of the Flash are present in this film, and I appreciate that of it. But everything else that matters when telling a Flash story is not there. So this movie was a big disappointment in
That's
terms
fair.
of story,
Yeah.
in terms of the character. I felt that I was hoping that this new turn, I always get, because I know Ezra Miller as an actor, he's a phenomenal performer. So in my mind, I'm thinking maybe the script in Justice League was the issue. The direction was the issue. And no, that's just his Barry. That's just his Barry. There wasn't really a lot more. I wanted to see more of the Barry in the book. Of course, everyone that plays a character is going to be similar. But here's the thing, though. And I'm going to say this, and it may not make sense, but it makes sense to me in a degree. But like, you see John Wesley Shipp play Barry, and you see Grant Gustin play Barry, and these are two very different versions of Barry, but they both feel like Barry.
Yeah,
they both feel like the Barry Allen that I know and read and love. Ezra's doesn't feel that way. Doesn't feel like the Flash that I follow, that I enjoy. There are moments where Proto Barry is there with Faux Barry, which is again fake Barry. That's the way I like to call them. Where you see like him being the big brother kind of, and I'm like, those moments are okay and they're cool, but there's a lot of things that they did where they dismissed a lot of important things in the mythology, a lot of important things in the lore that just make me feel that instead of a love letter to the character, like a lot of people are saying this movie is, it is actually a betrayal to a lot of the lore and history of the character. So the movie was a big disappointment to me.
Okay. I have a question for you. Because Mike and
we can start discussing, by the way. I don't want to. That's my general feeling, and then we'll just.
Oh no, you're fine.
The nitty gritty, but go ahead.
So Mike, Leo, and I were talking about Man of Steel, and I believe Mike had brought up the point that Man of Steel, the movie, is everything that non-Superman fans like. Like it proves everything about what non-Superman fans say about Superman, that he's overpowered, things of that nature. And that's why it's a good, like, Man of Steel is a good movie for general audiences, but not for Superman fans. Do you feel the same way for The Flash, of this being a great movie for, the every general audience,
the people like, divorced from that mythology.
Yeah.
Might have a better time with it.
So as in, like, it's a good movie, as in, like, it's a good general audience movie, but it's not a good Flash movie.
So look at it this way. I love this character so much that I wouldn't recommend this film.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I've never seen the CW Flash at all. Like,
I'm going to tell you this right now. Just like Arrow, I didn't mean to, but real quick, just because you're in CW. You've never seen the Flash show, right?
No.
Okay. So have you seen Arrow?
No.
You haven't seen anything.
He's seen one episode of Superman and Lois. That's as close as he's gotten.
And that's great. That's great. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. The one thing that Arrow and the Arrowverse, Arrow show, and the Flash show have, if that both of them practically have a perfect first season,
Okay.
but they also both have a perfect pilot episode. Like
Gotcha.
the pilot episode of The Flash is amazing.
Mm.
The pilot episode of Arrow is amazing. And everything you need to know about the character and whether or not you should care to watch this show, you get it there. And everything's authentic. And it's an original take, because a lot of people don't realize that the CW show is an original take on the Barry Allen story. He gets his powers a lot younger. He's surrounded with a team. Like there's a lot of things that occur that are not traditional lore, but the essence of the character is there. And I always go back to the idea of essence. And I'm glad that Leo feels me here with understanding the whole thing with Green Arrow, with Green Lantern, is that
all DC fans have gotten this at least one time. Mine was Man of Steel, yours was the Flash, Leo's was Green Lantern.
Yeah, like they missed the point with Hal and the idea of what a Green Lantern is.
Yeah. This is the manga adaptation. Yes.
No, I refuse to say that, because, for example, the fact that I saw an X-Men anime that is amazing, the fact that I saw Wolverine and Blade anime, they were both pretty awesome. There's great manga versions of this. This is not it.
It's no, but I'm saying like this would be the Netflix adaptation. This is the Death Note movie, as opposed to the Death Note manga and anime. Is my point. Where it's like it looks like it.
This is the Lifetime version. This is the Lifetime version of the Flash.
Oh gosh!
But everyone loves a Lifetime movie. No, I was kidding.
Oh,
sorry. Those are holiday Christmas movies.
No, but here's yeah. Now
let them cook.
So the whole thing. I always go back to this. Lifetime Flash is heinous.
That is the sickest part. You know, Tom Cavanaugh is in a lot of those Lifetime movies, and he's great. If he was in this movie, it'd be 1,000 times better.
Yes, even in the horrible suit they put him in season 8. So, listen, the last thing I have to say about this, just to go, the idea that I did a series on Revenge of the Fans when I was a writer there, on literally grabbing a DCU live action movie and comparing it to an animated version of the same type movie, and analyzing why the animated version was better, and why DC should take note of the good movies that animated movies that they produced and use them as a blueprint for the live action ones. And sadly, this is another example of something where they missed the point of the character. They missed the essence, and like there's a lot of things there that just didn't work. Now I don't want to go on a full monologue. Like I have a lot of notes, but
you're fine. Yeah, like
I do want to open the table, because I mean
we're gonna
go. Yeah, I'm gonna shut up. You guys go.
We're gonna just like I'm still stunned by Lifetime adaptation of The Flash. Oh my god, that might be the most savage review I have ever heard in my life. Look at it this way: would you recommend a Lifetime movie to anybody? No. Because there's a better version of that movie somewhere. Well, what do you say?
It depends on what age they are, where they are in life.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm reading digits. This was his face during most of the film.
Yes, Leo. Lifetime.
Okay, so I guess when he does the "want to get nuts" thing, like, did you guys have an issue with him? Because I think Michael Keaton was having a lot of fun.
Yeah, he probably had a lot of fun.
Yo, Leo is fire. There's some decent Lifetime flicks. Yes, Leo. They are.
I have to look up these.
This was not one of them. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christian.
I was just gonna. Because I know a lot of people like, he says, "You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts." Like for Michael Keaton's performance, I think he did a great job. I think
Yeah.
Sasha did as well, but I think obviously more time was given to Michael over
course.
Sasha. What did you guys think about him using like his old taglines? Because they've really like there's a lot of callbacks in this movie. Like I know everyone's like, oh, George Clooney comes out towards the end, it's Batman. I was hoping it would be Christian Bale just as like a nice little thing because I don't think he gets enough love, honestly. But it is what it is. But what did you think about? Huh?
Christian Bale, not enough love.
As in like, because I mean, obviously you couldn't put Val Kilmer in as Batman because his health conditions, and it's like, yeah, I mean George Clooney, it makes it funnier, but just yeah.
Especially considering Ezra's reaction towards it, but
yeah, for sure. Like, no, I'm not saying it didn't work. That's like
sorry for the swear
smallest
word, but I'm used to quote Ezra in that movie. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
Now, so with Keaton, if I may start, I mean, he was. Stop it. It was fun to have him along.
Yeah.
But I hated being in a movie where I already knew what he was going to do.
Yeah.
I already knew what he was going to say.
He's all over the movie.
I already knew what his role was going to be or kind of be. He didn't bring anything new to this. He was just the equivalence of eye candy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
because of the story, because it's Bruce's father who becomes Batman.
Thomas Wayne, yeah.
Wayne.
Yeah, right. Which again, I think is a great alternative to bring Keaton back because I mean, again, he's Batman. I think it was a great choice because of the storyline.
I actually would disagree because in the movie, like again, looking at what the movie gives, not what the comics do and the other stuff. In this movie, Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck, tells Barry, you can't save everyone. You shouldn't mess with time. And he's like, I can save my parents. I can save your parents. And I think narratively speaking, having Thomas Wayne be there as Barry saving Bruce's dad would have been a very cool moment. It would have been, it would have tied everything. Because remember, this is the last time we see Ben Affleck. He's gone now. So can you imagine?
And we can't do the letter thing. The letter. Yeah.
So I feel like narratively having his last words be, you can't save everyone, as Barry's offering to give him a chance to bring his parents back. And then meeting Thomas Wayne would have been way more interesting than Michael Keaton.
I agree.
You could have Michael Keaton play Thomas Wayne. But
I agree.
Yeah, you could.
No, and I totally agree. But and that's the narrative and story. This is where the screenplay in terms of emotional weight and direction fails.
Yeah.
That's where it breaks down. And I'm not, because you said something very particular. Think about this. We're not saying that it fails or breaks down because it didn't mimic the book. That's not what we're saying. It's because it had the opportunity to produce a much stronger and poignant emotional beat for all characters involved. And they chose to go with a nostalgia route as opposed to producing a quality story or a quality story beat or line.
Yeah. Him being Thomas Wayne would because they put Michael Keaton in the marketing so much. It's like, it's got to be more to this, right? And it wasn't, which is it's fine. I don't hate it, but yeah. Supergirl, I'm going to be real and I need chat to talk to me. I've been seeing this comment a lot. Sasha's great. I'm not taking anything from her. She's barely in this movie. Am I missing something? She's getting so much love for not being in this movie. I'm so confused.
She's only there because we haven't really had I think it's because we haven't had the film Supergirl ever. At least in current time. So it's she is it's so cool. Because I remember when she got casted, it was the video.
It was a big deal.
She was oh my gosh, this is amazing. And she's talked about, she got to hang out with Wonder Woman, even though, she's barely in the movie as well. But it's man, I really wish that Superman was, I mean, not Superman, Supergirl was kind of in it, because it's like, again, this is her big break. And apparently there was a lot of scenes that were cut with her.
Supposedly.
I think I had,
or whatever.
This came straight from her, so I'm inclined to believe it. It's not like it's a rumor.
Yeah, I guess Sasha Kite, she said that there were some Supergirl fight scenes that were cut from the Flash because they were too rated R from Collider. So it's like, I was like, I mean, that's the whole thing with superhero movies, and it's like, I wish she was a more integral part to the story.
Yeah.
I do hope they put. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's just, you know, she helps, you know, Flash get his powers back, and it's like, oh, the way that she dies kind of pissed me off. I was like, really? I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this then. But yeah,
So, I want to bring a point. That he mentioned something very interesting, Leo, in the chat. See, I would not have been upset if Keaton played Thomas Wayne. I wouldn't be upset with that. And the idea of him playing a different version of Batman, taking advantage of his age, it would have still worked. You know what I mean? Because people would still go like, it's still Keaton being Batman.
And especially since it's an alternate Earth, like this Earth doesn't feel like the 89 Earth anyway.
No, it doesn't.
Not only that, think about this. Everybody knows Keaton Batman's kills people. Like, people don't come back to life. They're like, people die when he fights them, like blow up and stuff. Right?
Because like they're like, Batman saved Gotham City and he retired. It's like, yeah, because he killed every single person he came in contact.
Thomas Wayne killed people all the time. Like the Batman, Thomas Wayne. So
meta commentary on Bruce Wayne.
It was right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. There are things like I really enjoy in this movie. I know it feels like we're ragging on it.
What did you enjoy, Mike?
Supergirl. He leaves a comment here saying her scenes were great. It wasn't a lot, but they had impact. I agree. Like that first fight sequence when the sun hits, I love that entire sequence.
Yeah,
I love how many gadgets Batman has, right? This is the most prepared Batman I've ever seen. And he threw a batarang. We've never seen that.
Multiple times. And he did trick shots with the freaking batarangs too. Like that one shot when he throws a batarang against the corner of the wall so it hits the guy that was right behind him. Like that kind of stuff is banger. Now,
and we
wonder
why Andy got the Brave and the Bold gig.
Yeah, this was his audition for the Batman movie. Like I told you guys before, Nightwing's
so instead of doing a good
flips.
Flash movie, he just auditions for Brave and the Bold. Sorry, that was horrible. I shouldn't have said that, but I meant it. But
yeah, we get it.
Now, I am gonna say this. That's very cool, which to me is a very deep cut. Did you guys notice that? Completely frail Kara, when she's on the floor, as the sunlight starts to hit her hands, they start filling up with mass, like she's regaining muscle.
Yeah,
that's a deep cut from the Dark Knight Returns book.
Because I never read the book, but I watched the movie.
So there's the scene where Superman stops this nuclear bomb and explodes, and he comes down to Earth, he's all frail, and then when he starts touching the grass, he absorbs the sunlight and gains that kind of stuff was cool. It's
also a cool homage to the Flashpoint too. You know, you have frail Superman in that story.
Right.
I really liked what they did with her. Again, it's weird that I'm the one saying this. I really miss Zack Snyder by the time we get to the third act of this movie. Because like Zod and Faora show up and it should be cool, but like the lighting's kind of weird and the action's kind of weird. And I'm like, man, if Zack Snyder directed this scene, it would have been killer. and I think we have the direct comparison because it is just a riff on Man of Steel. And I think that is also what kind of hurts the third act of this movie, is that I know what the third act of Man of Steel should look like. I know what the threat Zod should be. I know what he does to Metropolis. But instead, we're in some weird open field and Kara keeps
Dragon Ball
dying.
style.
Yeah, it's so weird because I have that one-to-one of like, this is what that fight is supposed to look like, especially since Barry says he was there at Metropolis, which I thought was a very interesting reveal. I thought it was a nice touch, but also like, was everybody in Metropolis that day? I swear the whole Justice League.
I was in Metropolis that day. It's like, were you?
I was on that. I was on the Starbucks at the corner.
Can you imagine Aquaman? He was too drunk to do anything. That's why
it's very possible.
Also, speaking of Aquaman, that post credit scene was really stupid. It was really dumb.
It just felt like Momoa was bored. They called him, "Hey, we just want to do a random after credit scene
because we're missing a Justice League member, and it's like we can. It's not like we can call Cavill up because we already fired him.
We're like, we'll just ask.
Brandon is not holding back tonight. My God.
It was like we'll add like a small little CGI for him. We'll mention Cyborg, but he won't be in the movie. And then we'll have Affleck and that.
I need to ask Christian and Brandon this. I sort of asked Mike this before.
Then ask him now, so he can say it now. Damn it.
With how Barry mentioned how he was still in Aquaman was still as Jason was still Aquaman, no matter the timeline. Is this an indication that Jason is sticking around as Aquaman?
I don't know. It's weird because like it's strange because we still don't know what's going on. Like this is canon, but then it's like, oh, but this is supposed to reboot the entire franchise. I thought this movie was just like a one and done. Like clearly they're gonna try to make another movie, and Leo's right. It's like it's been a mess, even with DC Studios. It's a little bit better. Like they have a little bit more.
Well, to be fair, DC Studios has not released any movies yet.
Yeah,
right. But like, because this movie, I thought this is a one and done. He goes back in time, and then everything just changes and it just resets. Like I think it was at the end of Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, where Flash, I think he runs in like to save the actual world because everything just went to crap. And then the movie just ends, and like we get the new 52. We start to get like Superman, Man of Tomorrow, whatever. I thought that was going to happen here. And it's like, no, we just got George Clooney as Batman.
Yeah.
And then James Gunn's like, oh, well, he won't be the Batman moving forward. I'm like, but I don't know. It's a soft reboot. Like they're not even doing a full reboot. They need to scrap everything.
Yeah.
It's like when you have a boat that's sinking
needs to go, and they need to start over from square one.
I'm just asking also because with how Jason Momoa has acted in sort of like in social.
Damn.
I mean, like he has fun with the role. I'm assuming him and Shazam are gonna stay.
Yeah,
because they're like, oh, we're doing a reboot. Oh, but like some people are gonna kind of like stick around. It's like, well, that's not really a reboot. That's like a soft reopening.
I was just thinking that because Jason has talked like he's sticking around in DC, really, and I know that the popular belief is him sticking around but getting recasted as Lobo, but it's just that the end credits made me wonder because, and I don't think anyone here would be against him being recasted to Lobo in a DCU. Would Lobo end up being a thing?
And then, of course, we have everything with Black Adam. He's like, oh, like, I'm not a part of DC, but,
I have Henry Cavill.
Right now.
No, you
don't. I love the Rock impressions by both of you guys. Top.
It's like, guys, listen here. It's The Rock. It's like.
It doesn't matter what you say.
But it's weird. This movie just makes everything even messier.
But you get to ask, at least.
Yeah. Because when is Superman Legacy supposed to come out? 2025?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is what I assume happened, and we can kind of go into this. This was a story that came from the Hollywood Reporter.
Mike, before you do, I want to hear Brandon's thought about the Aquaman stuff.
Let me. I've got a thing. Let me handle my stuff, man. Okay. So this movie had multiple endings. They were refilmed. One ending had Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Michael Keaton. The second ending had Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Sasha Kaye, Michael Keaton. The third ending is what we got with George Clooney. Because apparently Gunn and Safran changed the ending of this movie because they didn't want to confuse audiences thinking that this Justice League stays. So going back to what Gunn said about George Clooney not being the DC Batman,
I'm so confused.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Gunn said in February that Clooney is absolutely not going to be Batman of the DC universe.
Yeah.
So I feel like it is going to be a hard reboot. It's going to be a hard reboot. But they can't tell us that because nobody's going to give a crap about all these movies.
But
because the fact that we're having this conversation about Jason Momoa now means we're still somewhat invested in what happens to that character in that movie. Because
how many Flash movies do we need in order for everything to hard reboot?
We technically shouldn't have needed any.
Well, here's the thing. Apparently, according to this film, if we keep rebooting, you become a weird jewel-filled monster. So I don't think we can ever fix
that
this.
is something
Look,
else right
the
there.
lesson of this film is letting go. It's not about fixing. It's about letting go.
Unless you can.
But of course, the Flash doesn't learn that lesson in this film. But go ahead.
So to land the plane, it's a little long-winded. I think Jason Momoa's cameo was just to say, hey, Jason Momoa's around for at least the next movie. And then they're going to hard reboot because we're already changing Batman. We're already changing Superman. You can't keep this actor as the Flash anyway. And Gal Gadot's busy doing Netflix movies right now. So they're probably
going to Andy Muschietti say that if they make a sequel, then Ezra would be playing.
He said if he makes the sequel.
Oh, if he makes a sequel.
But he's making Batman, so.
But you can see him returning as Lobo.
I mean, sure, why not?
Because,
well, I mean, and Marvel kind of did that with Chris Evans when he was Human Torch and Captain America now. But those are technically two. But yeah, in general,
so it is.
Yeah.
So Brandon, Jason Momoa's question.
I don't care.
I don't care either. No.
But I'm going to answer the question. The question was asked. I'm going to answer it. It's funny, the idea of him sticking around, but it doesn't make. I think he can or may not. I think it's really in the air. Why? Because think about this: the alternate Earth that he stepped into, where his mom was alive, there was no Aquaman.
Nope.
And they made it a point to tell the audience that there is no Aquaman. Thomas Curry never got it on with the Queen of Atlantis. It did not happen. So
it wasn't even born. Yeah.
But then at the end of the film, Barry tells Aquaman that he went to saw multiple timelines, and he was in all of them, which makes no sense to me whatsoever.
And so what Mike said about the multiple endings, why? Okay, so I get, not want to confuse audiences, but
it doesn't make sense. You can ask the question anyway, but it doesn't make sense.
But it's like, okay, so they went with the George Clooney. They went with the George Clooney route. Why didn't they just have the Flash just actually go back to his own timeline? Lesson learned. I'm done.
I'm glad you said that.
Because it doesn't make any sense. Why did he need to be in another universe?
Business sense, I'll tell you why. Because that means no more Snyderverse. Think about it. If Ben Affleck's not there anymore. Let me get this out right quick.
Okay.
With Ben Affleck removed forever, for good, a certain demographic of people might be a little more quiet going forward. So business-wise, that was probably very strategic of, hey, Batfleck is dead. It's over. As far as that goes. That's what I would assume.
Yeah.
Narratively speaking, in the movie, Brandon's going to explain why it's kind of weird.
From what I've heard, both Netflix and and DC are not that happy of a certain cell moment, if I to make that short.
Yeah, that scene single-handedly destroys the Snyderverse, because if you go back,
Yeah,
do we
that's
really
true.
want to see Justice League 2 with George Clooney as the leader of the team?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
yes, but also no.
No,
But
Yes.
also, but it also you got the whole thing about, well, okay, so beyond the Snyderverse, right? Beyond that, like from a business standpoint, Wonder Woman 3 is on hold. Ben Affleck's no longer around. Henry Cavill is not around. We don't know if this movie's going to require
the
a
Trinity is
sequel.
essentially already rebooted.
Correct.
Well,
Correct. The only one that's around to play possibly a different character is Jason Momoa, but he's busy with another 5 Fast and the Furious sequels,
And another Aquaman movie. Like, Aquaman is still a thing. As of
which again, the movie does not take place in the DCU. Like James Gunn made it a point to say that it's not on the DC Studios, by the way.
Yeah,
they will never stop, but I feel like that was probably like the final nail in the coffin. At least that's probably what Saffron and Gunn were thinking.
It's just like weird. It's weird. Sorry, go ahead. You're good.
I would laugh if Clooney is becoming the brave and the bold Batman. I would just love it, and just in all the chaotic way. I'm sorry, but there's a reason why I'm called.
You're not sorry.
He's really
no. Now,
tomatoes.
You mentioned something about lesson learned. So I'm going to put this out there, and I want you guys to think about this. Did Barry learn his lesson?
No.
I don't know.
Cool. Isaac, why do you say no?
Because it's clear that he did something to change the timeline again to save his father from.
He put the thing on the top shelf instead of the bottom.
Yeah,
so
that's why Clooney existed and not Affleck again.
Maybe, but yes, that's an idea. But here's the whole thing that to me, like these. So now I want to talk about the biggest sins that the Flash film does.
Right back, by the way.
Yeah.
Against the Flash mythos, right? And I want you, as I say them, I want you guys' thoughts. But let's start with that one. The whole point of the Flashpoint storyline. I'm gonna be honest. I think there's a universe where this could have been the best type of story for a first Flash film. This is not that universe, but if done right, now that I see it as a film, it could have worked. But here's the thing. If you're going to do a Flashpoint storyline, right, where the main point of that story is about Barry willing to accept loss and deal with it at an emotional level and learn to move on. That's really the whole thing. Like the reason he does the thing is because he can't let go the fact he can't deal with the grief of losing his mother. So he finds a way to save her. That's the whole point, right? And the whole lesson is by trying to undo the scars that make you, you cause a lot more harm to the entirety of the multiverse. That's the whole point. Him learning to accept that and going back to stop himself from doing it, which is why I think is very brilliant that you got the two Barrys. You got the one that finally got it and the one that doesn't get it because he's younger and immature. And that's why he becomes the monster that made no sense or whatever, the faux avatar, whatever.
Yeah.
But after all of this, he still does the thing he's not supposed to do. He doesn't put the tomato can away because of his mother, but then he does the same thing that put him in the horrible spot in the first place to save his dad.
Mm-hmm.
So you completely.
So instead of saving his mother, like, okay, well, let's see if I can save my father.
Like I still have to win or something. So in other words, he's not a hero. He doesn't learn anything, and the entire movie is pointless.
Yeah, that's fair.
Review over. Good job.
like the idea that happens is a travesty, because Barry Allen, the whole point of him, which by the way, the one thing that got me excited as a Barry fan, that moment when he's talking about how important the job of a CSI is, that's a lot of the Barry that I want, because the whole point of Barry Allen is that he was a hero before the lightning strike.
Right.
He was a cop. He was someone that was trying to solve cases so people would be saved and crimes would be solved and murderers would be trapped and whatever. But then again, he gets lightning bolt and he then becomes a bigger hero or whatever. So that's cool. That's awesome. But that doesn't. But then you do this, and then the entire movie is pointless. So this 2.5 hour film or 215-minute film was all pointless because our hero did not learn anything, and we just give him a pat on the back and say that it's okay. Oh, just so that we can get a curse word at the end, because you only get one of those in a PG-13 film. For him to say that about Clooney. So that's to me one of the biggest story things that made no sense whatsoever and just destroys the film.
It feels like this movie needed Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get Reverse Flash. Like I said, I thought everything was going to be summed up, bing, bang, boom. You know, revert, like the multiverse, you know, everything's reset.
I don't agree. It would have been great to use Reverse Flash, but if you use Reverse Flash, you got to eliminate second Barry. I'd like to
eliminate second Barry.
No. And again,
No.
I hate. I don't like.
No more Cousins dinner.
That was so funny. I gotta admit, like the jokes in this
hilarious.
movie do get me. That was so funny.
It does.
Like
he was
like,
I thought we were
like
going
the
to
whole
the
thing.
Cousins dinner.
Yeah, the whole thing with the second Barry to me works because it forces him to figure out that he's the problem. And agree, we didn't need the second Barry, but you either have him or you have Eobard. But I feel that there's so much backstory. The reason Eobard works in a Flashpoint storyline is because he already exists as a Flash villain. Like, for example, one of the most brilliant things that the animated Justice League Flashpoint Paradox movie did is that how does the movie start, if y'all remember?
I literally just watched it the other day. It was
Barry's fighting the Rogues.
Yeah,
right?
Barry's fighting
the Rogues that are being moved into action by who?
By Reverse Flash.
In other words, we establish a villain that way.
The first 10, 15 minutes. Yeah.
Right. So we establish him as the main villain for some reason. And then when you bring it back to the end, it all comes full circle. But then it gets deeper because it's like, hey, you did this. I didn't do this. You did it.
So yeah, that's my point of Barry at the beginning of this movie, Bruce tells him not to do it. Moral of the story really is just to listen to Batman, because
Batman's always right.
Right.
Yes.
So, but the beginning of this movie is he's working with the Justice League. He's got really weird chemistry with all of them. The Glass of Truth still doesn't really make much sense to me. Like, it just makes everybody spill their weird sexual desires. I don't think that's how that's supposed to work.
Bro.
That is very
so
true.
unnecessary.
It feels weird.
Can you blame them?
It still feels weird.
It's weird.
But yeah, so
anything else.
My entire point with saying that this movie needs Reverse Flash is that the movie establishes that everything that happens is Barry's fault. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Brandon, he learns nothing from it. But there's a question that's never answered. Who killed Barry's mom?
Batman.
See, that's well, here's the thing though. And that's what I say that it goes because here's the thing. The story of finding out who killed Barry's mom is a completely different story that's too big to fit into this.
That's fair, but
you got to pick and choose.
Can we say what it is? I wasn't sure if we were allowed to.
Oh, I mean, everybody know it.
It's
Okay,
Reverse Flash, right? Or
right,
is it?
right.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
Eobard.
So
It's
my
Eobard's mom.
entire point of
It's very
saying
complicated.
that though is she gets stabbed. Like we're watching the scene happen. Barry's dad pulls up. She's stabbed already, bleeding on the floor. The only people in the house are young Barry, and his mom. Who stabbed her, got through the front door as dad was pulling up and didn't see anything happen. Like that by itself is a weird like plot convenience. So
Yeah, they don't address that. They're just like, oh, she dies.
it was
Why?
me,
She just
Barry.
died. It was me, Barry.
I feel like you can do like a scaled down version of Reverse Flash where he's like, I'm from your future. You should not mess with time, blah, blah, blah. Because the entire movie is timey-wimey anyway. So like I think you could have incorporated Reverse Flash just as easily as you used Future Barry in a scaled down version of it.
But the whole thing is that okay.
Daytime burglary is not a joke. Millions of people die from it every year.
Yeah, that's pretty standard nowadays.
Now, so here's the thing. Here's the thing though. The whole thing with who killed his mother is too big of a storyline. Because here's the thing. You barely even touch upon the idea that he's trying to figure out who killed his mother. Like you barely even address that. And with the way the second act of this movie drags like hard. Like the pacing's very off.
There you go.
But it doesn't make sense. If you're gonna put him in the sequel, do you know what that tells me? That tells me that he should have been the villain in the first film, and Flashpoint should have been the sequel. If it was ever gonna, that's the only way Flashpoint makes sense. Because then you tee it up to the ultimate battle of Reverse versus regular Flash.
And and then the second movie, you have the big twist that
which it was me and all stuff like that. Or at least you end the first movie with a cliffhanger that it was him. They fight, and Reverse Flash goes away, and then it tees up the idea of Flashpoint because now that he knows who killed him, then now he can save her. The idea of the Reverse Flash was replaced by a can of tomatoes. Makes no sense.
Well, I feel like he was gonna go back in time and save his mother anyway, no matter who killed him, like killed her.
Yeah,
right.
I just feel like having another force in the movie, because think about it, it's all still Barry's fault. Even Savitar Barry is still Barry, is my point.
Yeah.
So by introducing another force into the story, it makes the ending a little more palatable. Like, hey, all of this wasn't our main character's fault, especially when that main character also has off-screen issues as well.
No, and so like it is. None of it is Eobard's fault. None of it. The only thing that's Eobard's fault is killing Barry's mom. Everything else is 100% Barry's fault. And here's why it hurts me so much that Barry doesn't earn anything. It's because you have a beautiful moment, like when he's saying goodbye to his mother, which, by the way, that moment is almost not identical, but it really is inspired by the final pages of Flashpoint. That's what irks me the most, because he just had a beautiful moment with his mother and literally said, that wasn't enough for me, so I'm just gonna. So no closure, you know?
Yeah.
But that's one of many things. Now, another thing. Kiersey Clemons has no chemistry with Ezra Miller whatsoever. Like,
but you know who has chemistry with Ezra Miller? Ezra Miller. Those two played off each other so great. Like the vibrating through the floor is one of the greatest gags you can do. Like him hitting the button on the ring and just ping! It's like, yeah. The only reason that scene sucks is because we never actually see Barry suit up properly. So we don't see the cool part of the ring, but like, yeah, that's funny.
Now, but the whole thing with Kiersey Clemons there, like this movie did not need her there. She didn't need to be in this film. And this is not a knock at Kiersey Clemons, but this movie could have done without Iris West, and it could have. And it could have done without defiling a great character like Patty Spivot, because again, I'm sorry.
Ironically, I think actually Jim Momoa and Ray Fisher has.
Oh boy.
So I agree and disagree with you, Brandon. We can pass it around in a second. Kiersey Clemens didn't necessarily need to be in this movie, but I don't like, if we needed a reporter to talk to Barry, I'm not opposed to it being Iris. I just think
Agreed.
kind of shoehorning the romance aspect, because they clearly don't really know each other, but then they're like, hey, they actually went to school together. Like it was a weird way to play it. But if it was just, I'm Iris West, I need to ask you a question about XYZ, and this was their first time meeting, I'm cool with the cameo. That works for me.
And that's fine. I think,
But,
you
yeah.
know what? I agree with you. I think it hurt me because it wasn't really story driven. Like,
Right.
she was used as a tool to move the story along, not as an actual character. And Iris West is such an iconic DC character. Like, I was talking this to you, Mike, or to my friend Jeremy. I don't remember who it was, but like, Iris West is a top tier female character, just like Lois Lane is. The only reason Iris West is not as popular as Lois Lane is because Superman is more popular than the Flash. That is the only reason. But
She
Iris
doesn't really
West-
do much in this movie. She's legit just like the love interest.
Agreed.
That's
Like,
it.
if we would have just made her a reporter and someone that's like in the outliers,
We are the
that would have been great.
Flash.
But yeah, and I don't know. Like, I'm gonna stop. I'm shitting on this movie too much. My bad.
Isaac, what did you like about the Flash?
Honestly, excuse me.
Oh God.
What the hell was that?
You're not
Yeah,
choking
yeah.
over there, are you?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, what I liked about the Flash, as I said, I actually liked Ezra's role in this movie, and I have to agree with people. He worked good with it, with himself, so to speak. As in, he's in the controversies. Should I say they? Then considering Ezra is seeing himself as non-binary, apparently. It's clear that they are a good enough actor that they can spitball between. They can act with itself, so to speak. And I would actually say, going through what Nathan asked earlier, I actually think he worked fairly well with Keaton. Honestly,
Keaton was cool on the limited screen time they gave him. One thing, and again, not trying to take you back to the issues with the movie, but like, I really enjoyed, like, Michael Keaton felt like he just came back and didn't miss a beat. He just felt like he's coming back from Batman Returns, right?
Yes,
in a lot of ways.
he was great.
And that was great. It was just really painful watching them die on loop.
yeah, I can agree.
And so and that's why, like, going back to the endings that they changed, and I get it, not trying to have the confusion, but it's like seeing them alive would have been a better ending, because like the last image of Supergirl in my mind is her being killed a million times by General Zod.
Yep.
And that sucks, you know? But I love what they did with them when they were there. I thought they were great. And I respect that, you know, before the movie, my concern was Batman and Supergirl were going to take away from the Flash, and that's not really the case. Like, Barry is still at the heart of this story. Whether you like what they did with Barry or not, it's still Barry's movie. And I appreciate that. Seeing Batman actually be a supporting character and not steal the spotlight, I thought was actually really well done.
You would think I was
agreed.
I was afraid that they would have Batman steal the spotlight, considering how much focus they did on Batman at the beginning with Ben Affleck, and well, that whole car chase felt like you want to do a Batman movie, don't you?
Zod, I've come to bargain. Christian, why did you send me this?
Oh, sorry. I was reading. I was actually reading a tweet that someone was. I was actually reading a tweet that someone had mentioned that that Mike had mentioned earlier about the Flash bringing back dead actors via CG, feeling solace, which is pretty much what the tweet said. They said that it felt way more soulless than it happened in Rogue One, with Carrie Fisher. And I was looking at the dates of when Carrie Fisher passed versus what.
I don't think she passed when Rogue One.
No, she passed.
She passed after Rogue One came out.
Right. So, but she passed.
It was in the same year, though. It was in the same month.
Was it?
Yeah.
No, didn't she
passed away on. She passed away on December 27th, 2016. Rogue One came out December. Hold on. Let me look this up.
Okay.
Rogue One release date.
That's wild.
That it came out December 16th, 2016.
That's
so just shy of like 10, 11 days. It came out right before she passed. So the CG for that, technically, she was alive. But yeah, I was just someone was like making the comparisons on Twitter, and I was reading into it. They were like, "Oh yeah, like the Flash bringing back dead actors, it's just as solace as what Rogue One did." And I was like, "Well," and I was like, "When?"
Not the same.
That's not the same because in that
she was around
instance,
when Rogue One was filmed.
Yeah,
when they filmed it, so I assume she gave her okay for them to do it.
Yeah,
but also they were going like there was actual point that movie set when Leia is younger. So like I get why they would do that. This one didn't need to happen.
Yeah, it did not.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna go back to one of the comments that we had, but I'm scrolling to find it because it was kind of far back. So you can talk your point.
Zod, I've come to bargain. Well done, Artwinder. Well done. Now, I do want to mention. Can we talk about how horrible the idea of Flash running backwards is? Why would you?
Oh yeah, because he was like in that bubble thing, and then he's
run back in time. How can that? First off, if you don't want to do, if we're not doing a cosmic treadmill, that's fine. There's not enough time to set up the idea of building a cosmic treadmill. We don't have time for that. That's perfectly fine. But the idea of the time stream is that time is happening all at the same time. And when he accesses the Speed Force, he's seeing past, present, and future at the same time. And with his powers, he decides where to go. So if you're going back to the past, you don't have to run backwards. You're just running forward.
But it's in reverse.
Backing up. It looks
backing
so bad
up.
though. It looks so weird and wonky.
I mean, I get what they wanted to do with it, as in sort of like, how should I put it? It was a weird way of having a. How should I put it?
Artwind dropping them lines though.
They wanted to make a clock kind of deal, and you having when it runs in reverse, he moves the one of the clocks. I don't.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't recall what it's in English, but you get my idea. And
so, him running backwards is weird. Like I just don't really like. I think the script of this movie is fine. Christina Hodson, I think, did a decent job. I think the direction of a lot of this movie is my issue. Like I think how Muschietti visualizes the Speed Force and the way the Flash uses his power and time travel and the multiverse doesn't work for me. And maybe that's because we've done this a million times. We've seen the Flash TV show directly do a lot of this, but then we also have Spider-Verse and we have the Marvel stuff. And so this being the third time I've seen a multiversal story and a time travel story, because Endgame also was a time travel movie. Like, it just didn't click for me. Like, the uses of Barry's powers, he's like the fourth speedster we've gotten in like the last decade. We had Quicksilver, we had
both
what's her name?
Quicksilvers, by the way.
Both Quicksilvers. What's her name from Eternals? And I think the visualization, the visual language of all of their powers is way more interesting than what we give Barry. We give Barry weird CGI Speed Force images, whether that's a stylistic choice or not. It looks weird, and the CW made it way more straightforward. Barry's running, whether it's on the treadmill or he's just running, and occasionally a bubble pops up, and it's a scene from a thing we've seen before. You know?
No, yeah, like they did with Across the Spider-Verse, where they had like the small little pockets of like the.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
I'm sorry.
I haven't seen it.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
Me and
I played. Okay, I'll stop.
No, you're fine. You're fine,
guys. Uncultured.
I know.
You know why I haven't yet.
Well, Brandon's not going to be able to see it in IMAX or Dolby because The Flash is taking up Dolby and IMAX screens. It's only in standard. I wanted to see it again in IMAX before they took it out, but
now
it's only been like a few weeks. Come on.
Now the whole thing with the Speed Force stuff, and look, if Ezra really runs that way, hey man, he runs.
Get a running coach.
well, here's the thing though. You gotta figure your powers are based on speed, so you have to run. So you figure if you want to be if you want to be a better runner, what do? You study runners.
You do this.
Professional Olympic runners. And like every time the Flash runs in the comics, like when he's gonna do a sprint, he doesn't he simply starts running, or he has the pose. In Injustice, he has like the running man pose and stuff like that. It's because he took the time to learn those things, because that's the most efficient way to run the best he can. But no, he just runs.
How much of that is on Miller and Muschietti, and how much of that is on Zack Snyder? Because
I think all of it is on Miller.
Justice League anyway.
I think it's all on Zack Snyder because that's all a part of the Snyderverse. I think it's all a part of that's his fault.
No, I think it's all Miller actually, because here's why I say this. And again, I've said it multiple times. I think Miller is an amazing actor, and I'm surprised.
I say nothing, but I
don't say anything.
Right.
Everything that I saw him in up to Justice League make me think Ezra is a great actor.
Yeah,
but his take on Barry is I don't like it. I don't. But originally I used to think, okay, the problem is not Barry. Maybe the way Zack directed him, or maybe the way the script is, or maybe the way Joss Whedon directed him made him go this way. And this movie tells me, no, that's all Ezra. And it's just didn't work for me.
Before we call it a night, guys, I want to go back to something that Argwinder said. The callbacks in No Way Home are more organic and fit within the context of the scenes they're in The Flash. It's basically, do you remember? I remember.
21st night of September.
Right. So I feel like.
Do you remember what? What is that?
It's essentially, do you remember this thing? I remember this thing. Remember Christopher Reeve? Remember Adam West?
Yeah. Okay.
I remember those guys. They serve no purpose. So I wanted your thoughts on that. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit. As a multiversal like celebration of who Spider-Man is as a character, I think No Way Home 1,000% beats this movie. Like
100%.
Yes.
And I think that's the downfall of not just this movie, but the DCU in general, is that they lost their way after the hiccups in the beginning, and just for 9 years have been running aimlessly to the point where audiences have just checked out. Like their last 4 or 5 releases, anything since Aquaman, have been financial failures. There's no hype outside of our circles surrounding these movies. Do you think they can recover? Brandon, I want to start with you.
See, my concern is this. part of me doesn't know yet if James Gunn calling this an amazing movie is James Gunn the creator or James Gunn the studio head. Because if it is James Gunn the creator, then I'm worried. If it's James Gunn the studio head, I can deal with it. Because in reality, this is not his movie. His universe won't start till Blue Beetle, technically. And even that's like a preview. Like the official start of the DC Studios.
But also, he didn't make Blue Beetle either. He said Blue Beetle, the character, is the first character we see. He never said the movie. So I wonder if they'll retcon events in that.
The first movie is going to be Superman Legacy. So there's a possibility. I mean, like, for example, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was good. It didn't break me, but it was good. Now, not knowing what version of James Gunn said this is the one thing that troubles me, which I won't know the answer to until I see Superman Legacy. So,
Christian, can DC recover from whatever has been happening like the last decade, essentially since Man of Steel?
I'm gonna kind of make like an Xbox analogy here because they're kind of in the same boats. But my short answer, yes, I think they can recover, but it's gonna take a long time. I think it's definitely gonna take at least within the next, I would say within the next 10 years for people to get back on board with, like, you know, not saying, oh, like DC just needs to make better movies. Like, it's a little bit over simplification because, you know, when you get a bad comic book movie, then that's when the superhero fatigue pumps in. But when you don't, it's poof, it's gone. But I think, you know, much like Xbox, you know, that they've been struggling for a while and we're starting to see them turn a corner. I think, you know, not even just a Superman Legacy. Like, I need at least a good like 5 movies for me to like solidify and be like, okay, you know, they're starting to get on the right track and we'll see what happens from there. Because one good movie, like we've had that was Suicide Squad within the dog pile of crap we've had within the past few years. With the Suicide Squad with James Gunn, it was a great movie, but it released during COVID, during the whole dual release in theaters and HBO Max. Not a lot of people saw it in theaters, so therefore it was technically a financial failure. But I need to see at least 5 movies from DC Studios to be like, okay, they're starting to turn a corner, and we'll see how it goes from there. But not every DC movie needs to be a banger. They just need to tell good comic book story. They just need to be good comic book stories because
they need to be true to the characters. That's all they need to do.
I mean, yeah, because it's like, I mean, you have, like, you know, like we said, no one talks about like superhero fatigue when like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 came out or when Across the Spider-Verse came out. But before then, everyone's like, oh my God, I'm so tired of superhero movies. Ant-Man Quantumania was bad. It's like, yeah, it was bad because it was a bad comic book movie. It didn't have anything to say. So, yeah, I think they can recover. It's just going to take a while.
It's not even the quality of the movies, right? Because like you said, Suicide Squad was good. My question is, what gets people to spend time in that new universe, to want to come back to it? Because
that's a good question. I don't know.
They're financial flops, not just critical flops. Like,
yeah, I'm not even saying critical. I'm saying financial. Yeah.
So like, that's what I'm like. Will Superman, just by being a new Superman movie, be enough to get people to come back? Is my
and spend money.
If the word of mouth is good.
I hate saying this, but
John Campia has a saying called "winning cures everything," and I think he has sort of like a point there. If Blue Beetle is good, and if Aquaman is good, then it's going to just helping Superman Legacy. And going sort of like back to what you said, Mike, with the Snyder verse, a good chunk of why I think these movies has done as bad as they are done is that people are sick of the Snyderverse. And the
That's
only
fair.
one I think...
See, I disagree.
The only one I think, going back to what we said here, that I could see stick around is Aquaman, because, well, Aquaman is the only one that did $1 billion in the box office, and Jason Momoa seems to love working with Warner Brothers, so... And that's why also a reason for the Aquaman stuff, although I'm still on the Lobo side, but I digress. And I could, if as much as I like Henry Cavill as Superman, I don't think a Man of Steel 2 would do that well. Now, you say, you plaster on a poster from the creator of Guardians of the Galaxy, and you show a new face as Superman, and all that, and show that this is a new direction.
I don't think
And
they
the
actually
word of mouth
could
is-
put Guardians of the Galaxy on a DC poster. That would be the most disrespectful thing in the world.
I mean, they put the Guardians of the Galaxy in a poster regarding Suicide Squad, so
That's weird.
yeah, but still, and
Sorry.
you
go
can,
ahead.
yeah, but I think it's a combination of two things. They just need to put good movies, and two, sort of, should I say, almost great movies when it comes in some aspects. And people are probably just tired of the Snyderverse because, well, the Snyderverse has been very inconsistent, as we all know.
See,
Yeah,
I don't
That's
think.
why blah blah blah. And I think that a new, and it's like you said, a new Superman showing that there is a reboot will help a lot, because also look at the Matt Reeves the Batman. I know that Elliot talked about it in the group chat.
Patamon.
That's not in the DCU, and that did really well. Same as for Joker.
It did
That's
well,
nothing-
but it didn't make as much money as you would expect a Batman movie to make.
Yeah.
It's my biggest.
I
It's
agree.
still it's a reboot, so.
I mean,
But
yeah,
it's
but it's still
Batman.
Batman. Yeah. Like Spider, I
But
mean, Spider-Man No Way Home put butts in. It's
Yeah,
freaking
but
Spider-Man.
No Way Home
$1 billion.
was the number was how much many movies in with Tom Holland?
3. Well,
Yeah.
3 standalone Spider-Man movies, but he's been
Exactly.
But I'm
See-
just saying, I mean, it's still Batman though. Like he's arguably one of the most he's one of the most popular superheroes out there.
I think
It's
we can
just-
put "the" on Batman's name when it comes to most popular now.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I think it should have been released in October. That would have been very fitting for the movie. But yeah. Spring.
La rata
Cool.
alada. Now,
Brandon, you
what?
said
This
you
is a
disagree.
spring movie.
well, the one thing I disagree with is the whole Snyderverse side of Isaac's argument, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's like,
Yeah.
the only people that know that the Snyderverse fans exist are other fans.
Well-
Nobody else knows. And
I don't think he's saying that, Snyder specifically. It's this universe.
It's the universe.
Man of Steel,
the
Batman vs
DCU.
Superman, Suicide Squad, like
like this version of the characters. you mean.
this version
Exactly.
of those characters. Like
I
it's
mean,
not
it's
necessarily
saying
Zack Snyder
Snyder World.
himself.
Fair.
Yeah.
It's this universe is that, and I keep going back to it as much as many people who love Man of Steel. It's a very divisive movie. So you have Man of Steel, BVS right after, Suicide Squad right after, and it's
Yeah,
like
Man of
those
Steel was
three
not
back to
received well.
back probably damaged the brand, and they should have cut the cord right then and there. But
They
by
should have.
continuing to keep going with a bad Justice League movie, Snyder's Justice League is great.
Dawn
Not
of
enough people
Justice.
saw it. So it's like you had
Yeah.
those three very divisive to bad movies. You had Justice League. You have the Ezra Miller stuff, which people are aware of to a certain extent. You have the nostalgia bait of Michael Keaton, which might be rubbing people the wrong way. It may have had the opposite effect because all of the marketing is saying, here's Batman. And then the title card says The Flash. and then you had a show that ran for 9 seasons that people legitimately liked and enjoyed. I feel like it's just a storm of you need to reboot, but will the reboot work, or are people just like, I'm done with DC? Because even the MCU, it's starting to make slightly less money than it used to. So our superhero, like, is DC finally rebooting when the interest in superheroes is starting to wane? No pun intended.
Yeah.
Make all that. They need to reboot everything. Make it all animated. Call it a day.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Fair.
It's don't know how to give
feature
it.
length.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, guys. Like, we just want.
AJ.
I think as fans, all we want is good movies. Good movies. Give us good movies with the characters that we enjoy. Don't betray the characters that we love, and introduce characters that will open our minds to new worlds. That's all we care about. I think, and the funny thing is, I think that we all care about these characters so much that every time we go to a film, we all, whether we wanted to or not, we have an expectation, right? And it's just dealing with it that's hard. But hopefully DC gets out of the rut and get great films moving forward.
Yeah, we'll
guys,
have to wait and see.
Also, I found an article where a quote from Ezra Miller regarding the running. While looking into real-world inspirations that help him understand the concept of speed further, Miller stated, "I was also inspired by crows, cheetahs, mongoose, and other fast-moving and intelligent creatures, as well as by rushing water and, of course, lightning. Considering there are no animals that can think as fast as a flash, these creatures thought their movements served as next big thing and were exemplified in small moments. This was especially true when the Flash," and I didn't paste everything in there, but that's essentially his idea.
I love how their inspiration were mostly birds when it came to running. Before we go, Reboot will have a slow start. This is AJ. Predicting Superman Legacy will have a low box office, will be loved, and that will create for the success of DC. Yeah.
Slow wins the race.
If they can keep the budgets low on these first 10 projects or whatever they announce, that'll help to make the return a bit better, because $400 million on Black Adam and Flash is not the way to go right now.
Yeah. So, guys, we've done the thing. We've talked the Flash to death because it's officially dead. But we've also talked about DC and things that we care about. Guys, if you look what we do here at the Shatter After, we talk movies, news, games, stories that we love, and
hey,
make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click on the like button, subscribe, click on the bell for notifications so you don't miss any streams and any of our thoughts on the things that we love. If there's movies or shows that you want us to cover, let us know, and we'll cover it here on the Shatter After. Mike, Isaac, you guys are awesome. You're part of the Shatter After crew and the Amateur Otaku. If you want to see us talking about anime, check out the Amateur Otaku. But another pretty much, I would say, part-time Chatter After crew member, Christian. Always lovely to have you here. Give us that soundboard.
Yay.
So what's going on with Film Optix, bro? Tell us.
For those who don't know, I run a movie podcast called Film Optix. That is Optics with an X. We've been doing a lot of crazy stuff lately. It's been super busy. We're in the middle of the blockbuster summer season, but a few things you can kind of look forward to on our podcast, which you can, of course, listen to on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, all the audio podcast platforms out there. You can look forward to our Marvel's Secret Invasions episode 1 and 2 spoiler-free review, which will be hitting on June 10th. And then you can also look forward to our Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny spoiler-free review. And you can also check out The Flash spoiler-free review that I did with Leo over at Geekly Goods. There's just a lot of things in the pipeline right now. It is super crazy. We've covered things like Elemental, Transformers, Rise of the Beasts, and of course, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Again, you can find our podcast on all major audio podcast platforms around the internet. Thank you guys so much for having me. And this was a lot of fun. It's been good.
Yes.
Christian stuff is linked in the description.
Ba-boom.
Awesome.
Guys, stay awesome. Keep watching movies. Hopefully good ones. Take it easy, guys. Peace.
Excelsior.
Wrong universe. Dang it, Barry. Oh, gosh.
Thank you. That was just wonderful.
Horse